is boyos, there is pastry, there is simit. There is boyos, there is pastry, there is simit. There is boyos, there is pastry, there is simit. There is boyos, there is pastry, there is simit. There is boyos, there is pastry, there is simit. There is börek, there is hot boyos. There is pastry, there is simit, there is cheese and potato börek. Börek seller. There is boyos, there is pastry, there is börek. There is boyos, there is pastry. My spouse, I was making börek. In the evenings I started selling the börek. I started selling statutory decrees. Of course, it was difficult. People look like this. They look at the ikı, they don't often see this type of simit seller or börek seller. That business caught on a bit. Then I started during the day as well. Here on the coast I started selling to those fishing at Konak Beach. After that I started taking boyas, pastries and simit that I got from a similar decree law bakery, and I would come by bus. The municipal bus. It's a bit more discounted that way, between 5 and 6 in Izmir. That's how I come to Konak. Then, just before dawn, there are quite a few uncles and older brothers fishing on the Konak beach. I walked out along the coast visiting them. From Konak beach, here, is walking until Göztepe, until Güzel Yalı. I asked them, simit, boyos, pastry. There is boyos, there is pastry, there is simit. There is boyos, there is pastry, there is simit. There is boyos, there is pastry, there is simit. During this process, I think we need to we need to create added value for ourselves, for our family, and maybe just for this reason, no matter what you do, no matter what illegality you commit, we continue to stand firm. We need to be able to say with our spirit to the ECHR and the United Nations, we are here, and we need to continue our legal struggle as long as we can. In other words, we need to continue both the struggle for life and the legal struggle. I still love my country. I still love it, but I am disturbed by the malfunctioning of the law in my country. In other words, those who hold state power in my country, and especially people, should never be subjected to illegality because of their thoughts. They should not be subjected to marginalization because of their lifestyles. I don't understand how this happened right now. I worked with the state for 13 years, but now I've been expelled from the state. How can this happen? I really find it difficult to understand this. And I want those who have never been involved in violence and no one to be judged or imprisoned because of their thoughts. My name is Süleyman Keloğlu. I was dismissed from my position at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on September 1st, 2016, under Decree Law number 672. I had 13 years of public service experience. After graduating from Gazi University with a degree in finance, I worked as an inspector at the Metropolitan Municipality. I worked as a specialist at the development agency. So my life was spent studying and in civil service. So where did my civil service life begin? If we ask, my civil service life began as the child of a worker father. Because a worker father knows this, that if his son studies, he can become something. So he won't have to work with physical labor like himself. And from middle school onwards, I was always a successful student, always a hard-working student. I got into Ankara Science High School in 91. I got into Ankara Science High School in the year 91 afterwards. After my school life at Ankara Science. I got into the physics education department at METU. Then I had some problems with a few courses there. When that happened, again, I took the university exam and got into the finance department of Gazi University. And after finishing there by studying 10, 12 hours a day again, studying law and economics, what happened? I passed the inspector exam at Ankara Metropolitan Municipality. It didn't end there. I continued. I started a master's degree. I began a master's in economics at Ankara University. Afterwards, through that master's program, I applied for the Erasmus program and abroad. For about 4 to 5 months, I received business education. So by demonstrating language proficiency there, again, I was accepted into the Erasmus program. Then I reached the doctoral stage. I reached the doctoral stage in the Department of Agricultural Economics related to businesses. In January 2013, I started working at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and continued there. I had a role both in public sector job inspectors and on the management board of the Public Job Inspectors Association. We had a magazine called Denetişim. I also took part in its publication. And again, I took international certification exams there. I took the International Business Audit Certification exam, which is conducted in English, and obtained the certification. During my tenure at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, it was truly an institution and a position that I joined with great desire and effort throughout my 13-year civil service career, not just the 3 years there. I never received any warnings, reprimands, or any penalties. In no way did I belong to any group there, nor did I prioritize any ideology. In my civil service life, the law, whether it was the United Nations, the regulations, or even the smallest directive, we implemented them all. And my life always went on like this. I paid attention to the 8 to 5 nature. I never neglected it in any way. We worked by paying attention to all these things. After that, without distinguishing any duty, there was an inspection duty in Africa. We got vaccinated and went. There were outbreaks there. But we got vaccinated. Gabon. We went to Angola, Sudan, and conducted our inspections there for 10 days. So why is this? The resources our state allocates there, we did this to investigate and examine whether the resources were used effectively, efficiently, economically, and productively, and to make recommendations to our embassy accordingly. And I was doing this until the day I was dismissed from duty. Now, I think it was September 1st, 2016. It was Friday morning that night. Around 12:01 on Thursday night, as usual, we would check the official Gazette every evening or every day. Is there any new legislation, any current regulation? We would ask. That day when we checked, it was already difficult to access the official Gazette, but upon seeing a news article on a site like Memur.net, I saw that there were 52,000 dismissals. Of course, I wasn't expecting to see my own name at all. While checking the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we were sitting together with my spouse. In fact, we were shocked while looking. My name was there, around the 200th position. To suddenly be subjected to something like this, we were stunned, like what happened. I mean, we were at home. I had come back from work the day before. But that night, at the entrance of the official Gazette, it said something like, connected or affiliated with terrorist organizations, etc. We were completely bewildered that night. The next day, while I was thinking of going to the ministry, they called us from the ministry. They said, you need to come. They told us to bring our passport, ID, and ministry ID, etc. We were going to go anyway. I went in the afternoon, but I experienced something very interesting there. I mean, I came to the door, and normally we should be able to pass when we scan. I couldn't pass that way, okay? But I also wasn't allowed into the ministry alone. I mean, into the ministry's courtyard. I was told that the staff member from inside needed to accompany me to even enter. So we called inside, and so on. One of my roommates came there and took me. That's how I was able to enter the ministry. This was truly a humiliating situation for me. I can say it affected me more than seeing my name in the official Gazette, because it's like not being allowed into the ministry, building as if I were a terrorist. Because for 3 years in our ministry, we roamed the corridors of our ambassadors. We wandered. We sat in their offices, conducted our inspections at our computer. So we worked on many issues, but that day we experienced this. Losing your job is one thing, but what happened? On September 1st, I not only lost my job, I mean, it was a holiday. It was the Eid al-Adha holiday. I came to Soma. Then when we returned to Ankara, I noticed I had gone to my school for my master's degree. My spouse called and said they came to the house. I mean, they came to the house. The police had come. I have a small child. My daughter was at school at that time. They took and brought them. I mean, they searched the house. So what they found was a bank card. My phone was with me. They took my phone. After that, a report saying we searched the house. In fact, my child's storybook was there. They even put it on the table. I guess they thought it could be evidence. It was a book from a regular publishing house. Dialing. There was an assassination attempt on the presidency. From there, an attempt to overthrow the constitutional order. We always want the good of this country, or rather, the good of humanity. We don't want people to be enemies because of their thoughts. Perhaps because we want them to be much more meticulous about rights. Inspection at the ministry, we did this in our duty as well. That is, with the money used there, the source, but with the taxes of the state, the nation. Knowing that it was a resource created by these means, we tried to be meticulous in our inspections. My child didn't understand what was happening, being at a younger age, but my older daughter was at school. At that time, her not being there was perhaps a chance for us, not being at home at that time. But of course, as we were leaving, no one was looking at our faces. Even the building attendant acted in a jail manner. They were taking me away in handcuffs. We were put into the team vehicle. After that, we were taken to the sports hall at the National Lottery Additional Service Building in Ankara. It was quite crowded there. I mean, there were about 80 people, but we had nothing on us. We didn't even take any clothes. And it was a bit, actually September had cooled down a bit. So we really lived in a very restricted way there for 10 days. Well, there were about 80 people. And from our ministry, from our retired ambassador to the driver, everyone was there. Of course, the process went on like that. On the 10th, at the end of the day, all together, we were taken to the courthouse. In between, there were health checks and such. When we were taken to the courthouse, it was the first time my spouse saw me there. I mean, after 10 days, they couldn't get proper news either. Despite trying to find out where we were, they couldn't get any news. After that, we were brought before the court there. Here's the same thing again. Before that, for example, our statements were taken at the National Lottery Service Building. There, you would expect them to ask you questions related to terrorism, but that wasn't the case. I mean, when you look at the questions asked, they were asking where I was born, like which schools I attended, where I stayed, and then how I met my spouse. Then where I went on vacation, you know, it's clear whether I have subscriptions to channels or not. You are faced with questions like these that have nothing to do with terrorism or being a terrorist. So on the 9th, at the end of the day, they take your statement at night like this. I mean, the questions are always like a survey. I mean, if you're going to take it this way, your plot, you should ask a person different kinds of questions. But that's not how it goes. Then somehow they... So at the end of 10 days, they brought us to court with about 15, 20 other people. And one evening, the judge, after listening to us for 2 to 3 minutes, sent us to Sincan prison. Prison conditions are different, they have their challenges, but what happens afterward? Suddenly you find yourself trying to adapt back to life. Again, you have a home, rent, and the struggle to make a living. But thankfully after that, I came across a bakery. I started working as a sales assistant in a bakery. I worked there for about 6 months. Afterwards, when my father passed away after this illness, here is the amount that was left from him. With the money, I thought about doing business myself. And so I took over a stationery shop. Because I love books, I thought I could run a stationery business. But afterward, since we didn't have any experience in being a tradesperson, having studied for years, we worked as civil servants, we didn't really know how to make money. And we struggled a bit. Then, when that didn't work out, this time my wife was making pastries. I started selling the pastries she made in the evenings at decree law. Of course, it was difficult. And people look like this. They look and don't really see a typical ECHR pastry seller type. But then, thankfully, they started buying. They liked the pastries. So after that, the business picked up a bit. Then I started selling to the fishermen here on the coast during the day. The weather was nice at that time. I started selling to them. Of course, we tried to cover our rent and living expenses this way. Apart from that, we didn't have any other income, just the rent from my family. There is that income. Other than that, well, we honestly hadn't done much. We hadn't thought about saving because being a civil servant was a guarantee, you know. Around noon, after the simit and boyos are finished, I go out. There's a library up there. I go to the library. There I get some more books and read. I mean, we couldn't break away from it. Of course, we couldn't break away from reading, from books. And I wander around home there because I'm looking for something, besides my labor power, this mental activity, and how can I use that educational experience from the past beneficially. I wonder, honestly, I'm thinking about how I can use it both for myself and for my nation. The world will be a better place with good and beautiful people. Our country will also be beautiful, but here, for a benefit, for thinking differently, doing different things to people. I mean, using the law in this area to subject people to injustice is really exhausting, but we must resist somehow. Just as a person goes to a doctor to get better when they are sick, or goes to fresh air accordingly, we as decree law are actually, as those dismissed from their jobs by decree law, come together in almost every city from time to time in the form of a platform, and there we actually share our troubles. I mean, we don't do much else. We listen to each other. We see what situation we are in. I mean, right now I'm selling simit. I'm selling boyos, but at home my wife makes pastries. I sell those, but actually what I really want to do is use my mental skills more. I mean, to make use of my past experiences. I am continuing in this field. Right now I am slowly researching. I am looking for new jobs in that sense. I mean, I think this grievance will be resolved. I am sure of it. I mean, I am certain of it. But I think right now we need to hold on to life well. As long as we are breathing, as long as the sun rises, as long as the seasons change, we must never lose our hope. Our country, the world, what is vast. Today we are in the age of technology. There are many job opportunities. I mean, the thing that affects us the most is this unemployment situation, because you are used to it, your home is used to it, your spouse and children are used to it, you are producing. In this process, I think we need to produce, we need to create added value for ourselves, for our family, and maybe just for this, no matter what you do, no matter what illegality you commit, we still continue to stand strong. We need to be able to say with our spirit to the HAR and the United Nations that we are here, and we need to continue our legal struggle as much as we can. So we need to continue both our existential struggle and our legal struggle. In a book I read this morning, it was about that. Simoch was explaining this. The bird's going to see the phoenix behind the cloak, a flock of birds. They can all make excuses and get stuck on the way. Things can happen, sometimes falling into despair, sometimes shutting yourself in, not leaving the house. What do I know? These things can happen because, on the street, people like you, they know you. But when they know you are under a decree law, they can become a bit uneasy. They can say you might be innocent, but they can say there is a crime involved. And in this way, they can keep a distance from you. Your phone doesn't ring as much as it used to. For this reason, no one should ever lose hope. I am sure these days will pass, but we need to stay healthy. We need to protect our physical and mental health, and whatever helps with that, whether it's art, sports, or music. But there should be some production, some labor power, mental power. Even if it's nothing else, we should write. I think what we need right now is the establishment of justice, because we always relied on this. We relied on the Civil Servants Law number 657. In other words, we worked as civil servants for 13 years and thought nothing would happen. But then we saw our name in the official Gazette one night. I still love my country. I still love it. But in my country, the lack of functioning law in my country, I wish for those who hold state power in my country to be more transparent and to show more respect for people's thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and lifestyles. In other words, democracy should not just be words. What we call democracy is pluralism, majority. But the rights of minorities and those left in the minority must also be defended during the state of emergency. And especially people should never be subjected to injustice because of their thoughts. They should not be marginalized because of their lifestyles. mean, I don't understand how this happened right now. I was 10 years old. I worked with the state, but now I've been dismissed from the state. So how can this happen? I really find it difficult to understand this. I mean, I love my country, but I want it to change. I especially want awareness to increase in our society. I mean, not to forget that those who are different from you, those who are foreign to you, are also beautiful. I want them not to forget this, and never involved in violence nor anyone's thoughts. I want no one to be judged or imprisoned for their thoughts. There are simits, there are delicious and freshly baked boyos, traditional Turkish pastries, and simits, such as the ones you find in local bakeries.